From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Mountain plovers are a celebrated bird species in parts of Colorado. But if you've never seen one, you're in the majority. Mountain plovers nest on Colorado's eastern plains and are sometimes referred to as the prairie ghost because their sandy-colored plumage makes them hard to spot. The annual Mountain Plover Festival in Carville celebrates this bird. It happens this weekend. The festival draws hundreds of visitors each year and owes much of its success to support from local ranchers who have gotten involved in preserving plover habitat. Angela Dwyer is a manager for the stewardship program of the Bird Conservancy of the Rockies. She spoke with me ahead of last year's festival about the ranchers, the festival, and the plovers, including why this prairie-loving bird has mountain in its name.
When it was first discovered in the prairie, the backdrop, if you're on the eastern plains looking west, you see these majestic mountains. So some of the early naturalists named it the Rocky Mountain plover after really the Rocky Mountain region that it's in. And then it dropped down to mountain plover and has just held its name ever since.
Now, I know there's been some confusion over how to pronounce the name of the bird. I was hoping you could clear this up for us. Does the name of the bird rhyme with lover or with clover?
I think it depends on where you are when someone's asking you that. When I first started working with birds, I started working with piping plovers on the East Coast, and I brought plover out west, and I was reprimanded affectionately to become a plover lover.
Some ornithologists had concerns in the past about declining populations of the mountain plover. But as scientists improved at finding them and tracking them, we've learned that maybe their numbers have always been relatively strong. What makes these birds so difficult to see and to study?
They're a fairly rare species. We think the population is estimated at about only 20,000 individuals. We know that's declining. We just don't know how rapidly. They are, however, very camouflaged to their habitat, a very cryptic species, very difficult to locate unless you know what you're looking for. They like very sparse vegetation, so they're the color of dirt clods. Then they are also very solitary during the breeding season. They will have a nest not near any other plover because they have a fairly large territory size, anywhere from 50 to 200 acres or so.
Well, that kind of brings me to my next question here. Mountain plovers like to live in the short grasses on the eastern plains of Colorado. They've adapted to live and nest on the ground amongst the sparse vegetation. Why do they like to nest on the ground?
There's actually many grassland bird species. Some of our most imperiled grassland songbirds create their nests in the ground. They evolved with grazers over centuries. They evolved with lightning strikes creating fires, and those fires create the habitat that are most suitable for species like mountain plover. The mountain plover is an extremist or a specialist, so they are uniquely tied to these habitats that are mostly found in the shortgrass prairie ecosystem. Prairie dog communities make really excellent habitat, but they have also adapted to farm fields. So we have found many, many nests, hundreds of nests over years on fallow crop fields. It's not ideal habitat for just about anything else, but it is for the mountain plover.
Let's talk about the festival. The Plover Festival happens every year in Carville around this time because this is when mountain plovers are nesting and breeding in the area. You guarantee that everyone who attends will see at least one plover. This is a very elusive bird. How do you guarantee that birders will get a good look at one?
The one thing about this species that does make them relatively easy to study during the breeding season is they will return to the same breeding areas every year, and then same with migration and even winter. So it's almost guaranteed that if the habitat is still suitable to what they need, that a subset of birds will return to that area every year. And we have worked with landowners, farmers, and ranchers for 2 decades in various capacities regarding this species. And they are uniquely situated to know where these birds are. They're on their land. They see them every year. So I've no doubt that a birder will be able to see a mountain plover if they go to the festival.
Angela, I'm curious how the attitude toward plover conservation efforts has changed among the Carvel community over the years, and how has the festival been a part of that?
The nature of conservationists versus ranchers is a misnomer. We work collaboratively together. Ranchers and birders realize that they have a common ground in the sense of birders want to go see that bird. Ranchers want to talk about their land and their legacy, and they also want to conserve that land. And they learn from each other. Once you realize that birders are so interested in coming to where you are to see this very rare species, then I think it was an opportunity to help also talk about the rural and agricultural way of life and the struggles that come with that and create an outreach opportunity.
Some people might think that ranching and, using the land for agriculture purposes is bad for wildlife because it alters the natural habitat. But these birds thrive under these conditions. Why is that?
Agricultural practices, in some cases, are quite necessary for many of our grassland birds, like the mountain plover that needs very short, routinely grazed areas. Some of our grassland birds would not have the habitat they need without livestock grazing.
And what's it like when people are actually out looking for the birds?
The sense of anticipation is so great, and it's such an adrenaline rush because for many people, they've never seen a bird. And so when you see that bird, everyone's so excited. You can't take your eyes off your binoculars. I would equate it to no different than the African safari. Maybe that's a stretch, but I think the prairie is such a unique place.
Angela Dwyer is a manager with the Bird Conservancy of the Rockies. She joined me last year to talk about the annual Mountain Plover Festival, which takes place this weekend in Carvel, Colorado. Thank you to the Cornell Lab of Ornithology Macaulay Library for the use of their sounds of mountain plovers. We'll include links to the library and to the festival in our show notes and at KUNC.org. And just a quick reminder about In The NoCo's first ever live event. We'll chat with experts from CSU Extension for tips on how to help your yard and garden thrive this summer after this unseasonably warm, dry winter. A few tickets remain for this fun and informative evening this Thursday in Fort Collins. You'll find the details at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.